Alright, in this video we're going to take a look at the song Rose from the Jim Snidero Jazz Conception book. Alright, so first off, let's break down a couple of the tricky spots that I've observed here. Alright, so first thing to be aware of is this tune starts with a pickup. Right, we have that 3 triplet 4 and to count things off. After that, just some figures, and then I want to take a look at that second full bar where we see that cross stick figure. A little tip I have for you here is basically that first eighth note after the bass drum. I like to put it in the left hand and sort of bury it. The reason why is I feel like that sets up a nice clean cross stick sound, and by cross stick they kind of go the side stick technique here, which would look like this. 3, 4, right, so bury that left hand, then the right hand on the drum, and then right hand on the stick. I feel like that gives you the cleanest sound versus trying to get something like that. It gets a little flammy. So that's the little secret there. All right, next up we have a 4-stroke rough right before that crash figure. We're going to see that twice. We're going to see that again in bar 24. How I like to approach that is with a right, right, left, right sticking. Alright, that works for me. Another option is doing right, left, left, right. You know, whatever works for you, you might be more comfortable with that way. There's a few other options if you want to explore, but I personally like the right, right, left, right. And that's a fun one to move around, help you develop some solos too. Right? Get a lot of fun ideas just by moving the rights and lefts around a little bit. All right, next up, let's take a look at bar 2. Right now we're starting to number the measures. We'll see we're going to have a little syncopated hi-hat pattern. A little trick I have for you here is don't really worry too much about that left foot. Really let that pattern happen. Right, we're just going to follow the rhythm we see, and the left foot doing its thing just going to happen naturally. So just a little tip there. Don't worry too much about it. And we're going to see that a few times a little later on. I do have it notated. Like if we look at, where to go, bar 10, we're going to see it, but this time we have some bass drum in there. That could get a little tricky, and we do that, see that figure repeated. So jump into bar 10. All right, so just watch that bass drum in there too. All right, let's see what else. Next up, all right, bar 16. This is where we have a little setup fill. One thing to note here is the hi-hat kind of stays washy the first 2 beats, and then we have a little, the very common jazz setup figure. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4. One thing to note there, it does say high tom in the transcription, even though I would notate that as a floor tom. But when you're going to perform this thing, if you want to get it accurately, high tom. All right. Again, that's a cool one just to move around. You know, you could get some solo material out of that as well. All right, moving on. Bar 17, I wanted to note there is a little misprint here, as there are a couple other spots too. But the hi-hat foot is notated on beat 3. When I gave it a good listen, I still hear it just a classic 2 and 4. So you probably won't even see that. I don't even look at that hi-hat bar. I just assume 2 and 4, which is most of the time the case. So misnotation there. Afterwards, let's see. Bar 24 has got that 4-stroke rough. Right, this time we just have a snare figure versus a crash until we get to that beat 1. Right, that's actually a crash before we go to the hi-hat. Right, we'll see that syncopated hi-hat thing again in bar 28. Afterwards, let's see, what else? Oh, bar 31. We have a misprint too. If you're trying to play the transcription, cool. Just hi-hat, but if you listen closely to the recording, there is a snare figure on beat 4. 1, 2, 3. Right, so that's bar 31, top of the second page. All right, after that, we're going to get into another setup figure. Very similar this time, less bass drum going on. All right, so if I actually take it from bar 31, sounds like so. Let's try that again. All right, so that could be a little bit of a tricky spot. 3 and 4 in. Right? Again, you can build off of that, but yeah, hi-hat or high tom notation, I'm sorry there, and yeah, that could be a little tricky, as you saw when I messed it up. Bar 33, again, so there's a couple things here. It says crash on top of where we see the cymbal pattern. I'm not hearing that in the recording. You could safely just go over to the ride there. I mean, if you wanted to be slick and try to get a little crash happening there to get the transcription, you can. But there is a snare drum figure on the end of 2. 1, 2, and 3, 4. If you try to do that with the crash, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, and that beat 4 is definitely on the ride. We're giving that shoulder crash. Get this part of the stick. Boom, get that nice crash sound there. Okay, so yeah, that end of 1, I do hear a snare drum hit there. So if you want to add that in, go for it. If you want to honor the transcription, go with it. After that, we're just keeping time. Quarter notes, real simple. Bar 38, we get the bass drum going again. There is a little tricky figure here. Bar 40, we have some 16th notes. This could be a little scary looking. Really not a big deal. The figure we have there is right 1 E in, 2 into 3. So at a quicker tempo. Trick here, use that rebound. Let that second stroke bounce. And you can do that in that into 3 as well. You can build off that. Build some solo ideas out of this. But yeah, then the trick is just getting up to speed. Now it's pretty quick in context. You know, if you really listen to it, it sounds kind of a little bit messy in a good way, a tasteful way. The challenge after that is getting back to swinging. Right, so don't stay in 16th note land too long. All right, so slow it down, get that rebound happening as you build up your speed. And watch the hands, because the ride is with the snare, then against it, or off of it when we do that. Right. So watch the hands as well. All right, moving on. The next line, 41, 42, we're going to start to see some variations on the ride pattern, so just pay close attention to those. Extra 8th notes happening there, like bar 42. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Take 2. Right. That bass drum figure in there, that could be a little weird. Especially with the hi-hat. There it is. So that's a good one to slow it down. Here we go again, and right. So that's a tricky spot. What else? Yeah. So watch those extra rides. It's going to happen a lot in the next 2 lines. We do have a fill and bar 48. Watch your flams there. Goes nice and crisp. There's another, build on that, have some fun with it, but bar 49, there is a misprint here. It looks a little weird. Caught my eye. So what we're actually seeing, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, and that snare drum is on the end of 3, and there is a ride before it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and right. I'm also noticing no hi-hat written, but I'm sure that hi-hat is still chicking along there. So watch out for that. Yeah, so little misprint again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and is what's happening there. If you want to honor the transcription, go with it. To me, it sounds a little unnatural. So I like to do it with that little fix there. All right, moving on, pretty straightforward. Watch the ride cymbals again. We got mixed rhythms, a couple snare figures in 53, 54. You know, nothing, no big deal there. Fill with the bass drum that could throw you off the balance a little bit in bar 56. Lot of ands, 1, 2. Get that hi-hat. All right, so that might be a little tricky one. Slow it down. 1, 2. All right, so watch your balance there. That's really the kind of key. Then afterwards, we're cooking. We're cooking along until we get to the end. We're just keeping time. Watch that bass drum. And really throughout, watch that bass drum volume. We want to keep that nice and low, nice and soft. And then, yeah, we got a flame at the end. There's that cross stick. So the last 2 bars, I'd kind of go like this. You know, watch out for that clean cross stick or side stick like we talked about before. But pretty straight ahead at the end, no big deal. All right, let's do another video where I will play through the tune for you. But there's your lesson overview. Again, to go through those tricky spots, maybe notate them, star them in your book, and yeah, really focus in there. Otherwise, pretty straightforward. Take your time, get all those subtle nuances, and you will be in good shape. I have faith. All right, farewell for now.